They laughed when she dropped that line. She played to the crowd, basked in borrowed attention like she was on stage, and he just stood there, watching it unfold like a performance he'd long been written out of. It wasn't a flash of jealousy, not even anger. It was a quiet moment of clarity, and it changed everything. From that moment on, he stopped fighting, stopped trying to matter, stopped trying to earn his place. He simply began to disappear, calmly, deliberately, step by step. While she still believed she had everything under control, he was already changing the locks. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. It wasn't just that the closeness between Claire and me had vanished. It was that neither of us seemed to notice when it slipped away. Or if we did, we didn't care enough to mention it. 7 years into our marriage, the silence had settled in without a fight. Sure, the initial spark had dimmed over time, nothing unusual there. But this felt deeper, like we'd both silently agreed to stop trying. We moved around each other like courteous roommates rather than partners. Her side of the bed might as well have been in another zip code. No lingering touches, no goodbye pecks, not even a flicker of warmth. I clung to excuses. Maybe it was the pressure from work, shifting schedules, some hormonal rough patch. Anything to make it make sense. Then came Elliot's birthday get-together. Nothing fancy, just a backyard thing. String lights overhead, beer on ice, guests sprawled around a fire pit. Claire surprisingly seemed lighter than usual. She was chatting freely, even animated. She laughed with strangers, wrapped her hand around my arm when we showed up, putting on a show like we were still a team. For a brief second, I let myself believe the tide might be turning. Elliot raised his bottle, grinning. "All right," he said. "Let's hear it. Who's got it better, the newlyweds or us veterans?" Laughter followed, easy and familiar. Claire didn't miss a beat. She swirled her wine, eyes glittering, and leaned forward with a smirk. "With Daniel," she said. "Intimacy's a reward I hand out when he's on his best behavior, and only when I feel like it." The group erupted, loud, sharp. A couple people doubled over, laughing too hard. Someone gave me a playful nudge. I forced a smile and took a slow drink, pretending it didn't hit like a slap. But it did. What hurt wasn't just the comment. It was how casually she said it, like it was rehearsed, like she knew it would land. Her face lit up in the firelight, basking in the moment while I stood there, hollowed out. The rest of the night blurred past. Claire kept laughing, too loud, too often. I smiled on cue, drank more than I should have, and kept up the act. Back at home, she kicked off her shoes, poured herself another glass, and curled up with her phone like it had been any other evening. I stood in the hallway, watching her like a stranger might. Something in me finally shifted. This wasn't a phase. It was a quiet ending I'd refused to acknowledge. But that night, I did. After that, I stopped making the small efforts. No more coffee in the morning. No more inside jokes or random texts to make her smile. No more stretching across the cold space between us. Claire didn't flinch. If anything, she seemed relieved. My silence made things simpler. I started waking before the sun, even when I didn't have to. I'd head to Benny's, the dusty little diner she always complained about, and sit in my car, coffee in hand, windows down, just breathing. It didn't fix anything, but it reminded me I was still here. At home, we drifted like ghosts under the same roof. She stayed glued to her screen. I kept busy pretending to care about unfinished house projects or novels I wouldn't finish. One night, she glanced up over her wine. "You've been pretty quiet lately," she said, like noticing a drawer left open. I shrugged. Not much to say. She tilted her head, studying me like she couldn't tell if I was mad or just vanishing. Then she gave a small, indifferent smile and went back to scrolling. The version of me who would have tried to fix things, offered peace for wounds I didn't cause. That guy had quietly left the room a long time ago. I poured myself into the gym. Longer sessions, heavier reps. Not to prove anything, not to get noticed. Just for myself. Slowly, I started to reclaim parts of me I hadn't seen in years. Parts I didn't even realize had gone missing. Claire never asked where I went anymore. No late-night texts, no calls when I stayed out. Her silence said more than any confrontation ever could. It didn't take long before she sensed something had changed. One evening, I got home later than usual. She was curled on the couch, half-finished wine beside her. "You're late," she said casually, though her eyes didn't match the tone. I stepped out of my shoes. Jim kept me longer. She stared a moment longer, like trying to read something off my face. "New schedule," I added, already walking toward the kitchen. "New rhythm." I could feel her eyes on my back, trying to figure out the shift. A few nights later, she cooked lasagna, my favorite. Wore the old sweater I used to love. She brushed past me in the hallway, a bit too intentionally. The old me might have melted, but I just smiled, nodded, and moved on. One night, she sat beside me on the couch instead of retreating to her corner. "You've been different lately," she said, pulling her feet under her. "I have," I replied, eyes on the screen. "Feels right." She gave a soft, half laugh, trying to keep it light. "You're not spiraling into a midlife crisis, are you?" "Not even close." It struck me like a lightning bolt, what truly counted in the end. For the first time ever, I caught something new on her face. Fear. Real, unfiltered fear. She began tossing out questions like she was fishing for clues, where I'd been after hours, who I was texting, why I'd suddenly started dressing well just to hit the gym. The hypocrisy of it nearly made me laugh. After all the years of being invisible, now I was under a microscope. Her anxiety only deepened the moment she sensed she no longer had a read on me. I stopped offering explanations. No more defending myself, no more back and forths. I gave her nothing. Just silence. And that silence? It drove her insane. Then, like fate had a twisted sense of timing, the truth found its way to me. I ran into Eric, Elliot's kid brother, on a slow Sunday at a gas station. It started off normal, small talk about weather, work, the usual surface-level chatter. But as he grabbed a soda, he paused, like something just clicked in his mind. "Oh, hey," he said offhandedly, like it was barely worth mentioning. "Saw Claire downtown earlier this week." I glanced sideways at him, my expression blank. "Yeah?" "She was with some guy I didn't recognize. They looked real cozy." I kept my tone even. "When was this?" "Pretty sure it was Thursday. Around 3, maybe." I nodded slowly. "Appreciate it, man." He noticed the shift in my voice, muttered a quick goodbye, and ducked out. I lingered in front of the fridge, letting the chill cool my skin. Thursday. She told me she'd been out doing errands. Back home, I waited until the water started running in the shower. That's when I crossed a line I never thought I'd even approach. I opened her phone. She hadn't changed the code, not once. Tucked beneath a bland-looking folder labeled Budget Tools was something far more telling, a second messaging app. And just like that, the mask fell off. I found a flood of flirty messages, snapshots, getaway plans, and mocking little remarks. "He's so boring. He's like a lamp, just there. He'll never figure it out. He's too weak." I kept scrolling. Dozens of pictures of the guy, Colin, smirking like he owned the world, bare-chested and arrogant. The one she thought could replace me. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. Instead, I methodically forwarded every damning message, photo, and chat to my private email account. Quiet, efficient, surgical. I erased the evidence of what I'd done and locked her phone again. But what rose in me wasn't fury. It was something colder. It was clarity. I sat on the back steps, listening to the sound of her blow-dryer humming through the open bathroom window. The plan was already forming. There would be no explosive confrontation, no shouting match that solved nothing. The real revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be flawless, precise, final. The next morning, I started my departure. While she was touching up her lipstick and checking her calendar, I was laying the groundwork. I opened a separate checking account at a different bank, redirected my pay, froze our joint savings. Every move was calculated, measured, deliberate. At lunch, I met with Lauren, a no-nonsense attorney I'd quietly vetted weeks earlier. Smart, calm, not easily rattled. I handed her my phone and let her look through the proof. She didn't flinch, just scrolled, then gave a single nod when she finished. "This will do," she said. Adultery, hidden assets, enough leverage to keep the proceedings clean, unless Claire made it messy. I leaned back in my seat, calm. We both understood each other. By the end of the week, every essential piece was moved under my control. Credit cards canceled, utilities shut off, even the streaming services, gone. That Friday, she texted asking to get sushi, her favorite. Her card got denied. She called, clearly annoyed. "Daniel, the bank says our account's frozen. What's going on?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, relaxed. "Huh, must be some kind of glitch. I'll look into it." That night, she wore the red dress I used to love. She snuggled next to me on the couch, laughing at some rom-com she wasn't even watching, trying to read my temperature. I kept my distance, polite, detached, untouchable, let her squirm in the silence. Saturday, she asked if I wanted to join her and her girlfriends for brunch. "No," I said, tying my sneakers. "I've got plans." She raised an eyebrow, caught off guard. "Since when?" I smirked. "Since this morning." By Tuesday night, all the pieces were in place. The house, mine, the finances, secure. Divorce papers, sealed and waiting in a manila envelope on my desk. All I needed now was the right moment to deliver them. And I already knew exactly when that would be. I didn't have to wait long. Claire had a so-called self-care retreat coming up, some yoga escape a couple of hours away. But I knew better. She wasn't planning on going alone, and it sure as hell wasn't about wellness. Saturday morning, she flitted around the bedroom, tossing yoga pants and lipstick into her overnight bag. "You gonna survive a couple days without me?" she asked with that fake sweetness. I met her gaze, calm and steady. "I think I'll be just fine." She gave my cheek a distracted peck, barely touching me, then disappeared out the front door without looking back. The moment her car turned the corner, I got started. The locks? Changed. Finances? Locked down. By the time she hit the on-ramp, the life she thought she was in control of had already slipped away. I didn't go after her, didn't blow up her phone or send any dramatic pleas. I wasn't interested in chasing closure at a lakeside cabin. I waited. Then, just past noon, I sent a single text. "When you return, don't bother trying the front door." The rest followed shortly after. The papers will be there Monday. No punctuation, no dramatic flair. Just the end of a chapter she didn't even know had closed. Within minutes, her messages started coming in. "What is this?" Then more. "We need to talk. You're overreacting. Daniel, this isn't like you. I never opened a single one beyond the preview." That night, I watched her on the doorbell camera, struggling with her keys, pounding on the door, calling my name through tears. I didn't move. Just sat on the couch with a beer, eyes fixed on the side window, calmly watching it all unfold. Eventually, she sank to the porch, back against the frame, hands over her face, sobbing. By sunrise, she was gone. Left behind one broken sandal and a smudge of mascara on the threshold. When Monday came, the process server strolled into her office and handed her the documents, right there in front of all the people she used to love performing for. This wasn't revenge. Not really. I'd just resigned from the job of protecting her image. That was a husband's duty, and I'd step down. The texts kept arriving for days. I made a mistake. We can fix this. Daniel, throw it all away. You're better than this. Funny how some people only appreciate your worth once they can't exploit it anymore. I didn't reply. Didn't read them. Just cleared each one from my screen the second I saw her name. I had other things to focus on. Got back into the office, took on new clients, hit the gym harder, ate cleaner, slept deeper, started feeling human again. One night, after a long workout, I ran into Kara, someone familiar from around the gym. As we crossed the lot, she asked, "You hear about Claire?" I raised an eyebrow. "No, and I'd like to keep it that way." She grinned. "She's in a crummy apartment on 9th now. That guy, Colin, left her. Turns out he wasn't in it for the long haul." I nodded slowly. Let the words fall like light rain on pavement. Quiet, without reaction. No joy, no spite. Just the knowledge that her gamble hadn't paid off. The next time I saw her, it was a gray Thursday. I was in line at Starbucks waiting for my order. She walked in, hair damp, sweater sagging off one shoulder. She spotted me and froze. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Maybe beg. But no. Just a faint smile, worn and weary. "You look good, Daniel." I nodded. "I feel good. No venom. No tension. Just the truth." I picked up my drink, walked past her, and left her standing there like any other stranger. A few days later, the final message came. "I'm sorry. For everything." I looked at it for a beat, then erased it. I didn't need her apology. I wasn't digging through old texts looking for closure. Closure wasn't a conversation. It was a choice. And I'd already made mine. Because the real betrayal wasn't the affair. It was the slow unraveling over the years, the way I'd been ignored, diminished, made to feel like background noise in my own life. But that part of my story, it was over. Saturday morning, I sat out back with coffee warming my hands, listening to the wind move through the fields behind the house. The same house she once turned into a showroom, always ready for guests, always pretending. Now it was just mine, quiet, honest, unvarnished. I thought back to that party, the one where everyone laughed while I stood alone by the fire pit, her voice echoing like syrup on stone. Intimacy is earned, if he behaves, on my terms only. I didn't scowl, I didn't fume. I just smiled, with clarity, not resentment. She believed she held all the power. She never understood it was only borrowed, that it could be reclaimed the moment I stopped handing it over. And for the first time in years, the silence around me wasn't something to suffer. It wasn't a void, it was peace. No longer something I endured, no longer something I offered up to keep an illusion alive. Now, it was mine. I leaned back, stretched out my legs, and let the quiet wash over me like sunlight through clean windows. No noise, no masks, just the steady rhythm of a life I rebuilt, and a promise I would keep. I would never again give away my silence to someone who didn't understand its worth. Not now, not ever. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.